Now, the spring has brought some surprises in the way of many storms that have affected parts of Otago and Southland, blanketing many parts with snow, causing many lamb losses, described by some farmers as the worst ever. Actual losses have not been yet tallied. Southland Federated farmers have said that the spring will reduce the lambing percentage on the President's farm at 5% alone, and this is in Waikaka and the West Otago Hill Country and parts of coastal South Otago. Is this climate change, and where is this heading as we head into the depth of spring? Joining us now is Philip Duncan, the head of WeatherWatch, the weather analysis. Welcome to Sarah's Country, Philip.
Hello, Sarah. I'm glad to be with you finally.
I know. Welcome. There is a lot of people I know that will be tuning in to listen to the forecasts, and you do have some great long-range forecasts. But let's start in the deep south. In Southland, they've had a hell of a run. What is on the forecast for them?
Yeah, they've certainly had a rough run lately, and thanks very much for having me on the show. The forecast is actually going to go downhill for the next couple of days. Another cold snap coming back, but this is nothing like what they had last week. So we've got a bit of wet weather around today and the next couple of days. But the good news is we are looking at a sort of a drier spell coming up, more high pressure and warmer weather returning as early as this Friday. So while we've got 3 cold days coming up, by Friday the warmth is back.
And so what is driving this, Philip?
What we're seeing at the moment is a fair bit of high pressure that's been covering the upper North Island. So that's the reason why we're seeing Auckland City with its water problems, and many of the regional, the northern regions like Northland and Waikato, they're also starting to show some signs of being drier than normal because of the high pressure belts that have been up there. It's remarkably similar to last year, where it was a lot of high pressure coming out of Australia, making it drier than normal weather pattern. And in fact, that's what got us into this problem in the first place. But it's covering the upper North Island. So the lower South Island, far more exposed to the low pressure systems down in the Southern Ocean. And they've just been bouncing up and hitting Southland over and over and over. And sort of everyone between Southland and the upper North Island have been in that squash zone of windy westerlies. So it's sort of a classic spring setup, but it's not favouring Southland at the moment, although I do think it will start to improve there soon.
So long term, is this something that we will need to become accustomed to in terms of the volatility of when it actually comes? I mean, snow in spring in the lower south is not something foreign to farmers down there. It's just the severity of it that is that real sticky point.
Yeah, the storm that we had last week was a one-off random one. You know, the term weather bomb is very much overused by the mainstream media in this country. It's used for things that aren't weather bombs, and it's a technical term that WeatherWatch has only used 3 times in 15 years. So that sort of gives you the understanding that this was not a normal storm. It's a little bit like, an earthquake. We don't get very many earthquakes over 6.5 or 7 on the Richter scale. So this storm was kind of like that from a weather point of view. So a bit of a one-off. So the snowstorm, yeah, we do get them. We can get them right through till November even. But that's not the norm. And so I do see a more settled pattern coming up. We've seen a lot of high pressure coming out of Australia for the last 2 years. And I can't answer why that is. I haven't really heard a lot of scientific reasons for why that's happening. And I hope it doesn't become the new normal, at least for the rest of the country, because it's also making things drier than normal and much, much warmer than normal.
Philip, with so much uncertainty when it comes to weather and so many people with opinions now on weather, what is your advice to our listeners on how to navigate and predict with so much technology in front of them now?
New Zealand's the only country on earth to have 2 government forecasters that we tax fund, and they compete aggressively against each other, which is just bizarre. The Commerce Commission is about to make a decision on some of that commercial sort of system we've got. So what it does is sometimes it means, like, for example, today, Net Service said the high in Wairoa over on the in Hawke's Bay, Northern Hawke's Bay, was 28. NIWA said it was 30. So that means you've got two different official forecasts coming out, which can make it confusing. And then, of course, our phones all come with a forecast with them. We've got apps like WeatherWatch, and then there's Rural Weather, which is also a product we own. So with all these different forecasts out there, and there are many others, it can get quite confusing. So I guess my advice, and obviously I'm a bit biased, but we do add Met Service into the mix. We ignore NIWA because they're more climate people. They're not really necessarily weather forecasters. And the IBM supercomputer that we use at ruralweather.co.nz is basically crunching all of those different models, whether it's Met Service's forecast, NIWA's temperatures, the Japanese Meteorological Organization, the European Union, the Americans, the Australians, all those public forecasts that many people can find. IBM supercomputer crunches it into one forecast. So I find that's the reason why we're partnered with them, is because nothing really compares to a giant supercomputer that does all the thinking for you, and it gets into all the granular valleys of New Zealand, all the small communities. It's not just a generic sort of regional forecast or local airport forecast. So that would be my advice. Mix it in with Net Service, and you'll probably find that that's going to cover you quite well.
Thank you so much, Philip Duncan there from WeatherWatch.
This is Sarah's Country.